I've got Bailey's horse feeds coming to the yard today to kind of have a look at the horses, go through like the nutrition and stuff, and I thought I would bring you along so you can see kind of what a yard visit consists of and what they recommend, how to condition our horses, and see whether my guesses of Tizzy's, Qantas and Azid's weight and body scoring are right or not. That's Azid in the background right now. Hello. Hi guys, why are you so close together? I literally stood on top of each other. We're going to find out how fat you are, Qantas. Because you are a bit of a fatty at the moment, aren't you? Hello, Bethany. So at the moment, I fed Bailey's my whole life. So Tizzy has been fed Bailey's for the last 19 years. And we've never had any issues. She's just fed endurance mix, or she was just fed endurance mix. Azid was a little bit more sensitive to it, so I tried out Ease and Excel, and he seemed really, really good on it. Both endurance mix and Ease and Excel are kind of low starch feeds, slow release energy, quite a lot of oil in them. They've got like the little outshine pellets in. But then Tizzy, as she's got older, her teeth aren't as good, and she has quite bad arthritis in her TMJ joint in her jaw, so she can't chew as well. So I moved her onto the conditioning cubes because she doesn't hold weight as well because she can't chew as well. And they're a slightly higher calorie in there, the pellets, so that I soak them and she doesn't have to chew as hard. I kind of mix between the three. So for competition, I want the horses to have a kind of buffet of feed and they can pick and choose what they have, but I don't want to feed them anything that they're not used to, that their tummy isn't used to, so it doesn't make them poorly. So when they're in full training, which hasn't been at the moment because of coronavirus, because of me breaking my rib and breaking my hand, and horse issues as well, Aziz's injury and Qantas's back and multitude of things, they aren't on kind of their competition full training feed at the moment. But usually, if they were, what I would do is I would feed Ease and Excel before I ride, because I want something in their tummy to stop all those acids kind of bouncing around. Endurance mix for Qantas and Azid afterwards, and that's kind of their normal feed. And then if they have, like, I put a little handful of the conditioning cubes in anyway, just to kind of keep it in their system. But if they've had a particularly tough training session where they've like really put the miles in and got very sweaty, I add conditioning cubes kind of for the higher calorie content. We're about to find out with the yard visit whether that's right or not, and what I've been doing is that kind of the optimum way to do it. At the moment they're quite fat, and I would say they probably should be on like the low cal balancer, but because I want to keep these feeds in their system, what I've done instead is just given them a little bit of each of these with the Science Supplements Well Horse Performance Balancer instead, and Azid also has the flexibility. And this is just because I made like a graph, and it was really hard actually to tell, because not all companies will do their active ingredients in milligrams per kind of the recommended dose. They'll do it in kilos, and some of them do it in percentage, and some of them do it in weight, so it's actually quite difficult to work out. But I worked out that it was probably only a few pence more for me to feed the Science Supplements as a supplement and be able to like keep the Bailey's feed as the feeds that I want to feed when I'm in competition, rather than switch to the low cal. So we'll see what they say about that. So I've written down, you wanna read it out for me? Yeah? The guesses of how much I think they weigh and how much the body score will be. So Bailey's used the American version, which is 0 to 9. It's 9 anyway, and the UK version I think is 5. So I've gone for the Bailey's version. So Tizzy I've put as a 6 and 430 kg, which is a little bit fat. You, Qantas, I've put as a 7. He may even be more because he is quite fat at the moment, and I've put him down as 495 kilos because look at this tummy. So over winter on box rest, he lost loads of weight. He was proper dished here. He was like really skinny. And then because I haven't been able to train him much for a number of reasons, he is now really fat. So we'll need to work on that for sure. And then Azid, he's probably the best looking out of all of them because he's not recently come back from doing his aqua treadmilling for 3 weeks, which he looked like race ready. So I've put him down as a 5, yeah, and 430 kg. Do you agree? Yeah, is that what we're going to go for? We've also got some questions that I wanted to ask the Bailey's rep. I've got an awful memory, so I've written it all down. Are you going to do it for me? The other thing, I need to stress that actually this isn't an ad. I'm not paid for this. I'm not sponsored by Bailey's. I just have used them for a very long time. And I was supported by them and they've been really good to me over the years. I also use the Tasty Treats for stretches because they're good for that, little nuggets. So we have Sarah here from Bailey's, and we're going to kind of go through our 3 horses, what we feed and how to feed an endurance horse and kind of top tips and things. But first we thought we'd ask, what on earth are we going to do in a yard visit?
Yeah. So normally we come and check the horses' obviously condition. We are lucky today because we've bought the use of the weighbridge, the scales, so we can get an exact weight of the horses. We don't just use the weight, we will use then the weight tape and try and do a correlation between the two. At Bailey's we've been trying to do some research for a while to see if we can find a correlation between the weighbridge and the weight tape. It's a work in progress. And then we'll use condition scoring. So that's the most important tool we've got. So we've got our hands and our eyes. So we'll go over and see where the fat is stored or where the muscle is or lack of. And then we'll work on what we need to do and build the feed around what we need from the horse. Does the horse need to lose weight, gain weight, gain some muscle, and etc. and go through like that.
Cool. I think he recognises the logo off his feedback. He's trying to eat you. So obviously I've got endurance horses. That's what I do with my Arabs. What do Bailey's kind of have specifically feed-wise for endurance horses? What would you say?
So no matter what the horse is or what the discipline, we all need to check that they're getting enough vitamins and minerals, quality protein in the diet. Basically, are they getting enough of a balanced diet to suit the job that they're doing, whether they're happy hacking or they're going the miles that you're going. So yeah, the first thing we'll look at is what the requirements are. So have we got any clinical issues that we need to avoid? Have we had any laminitis or ulcers? And what the energy levels are like. So we'll ask questions, are they laid back? Are they sharp? They seem very laid back at the moment. And yeah, basically build the diets around what you need, basically.
Perfect. So we're going to look at Tizzy and Qantas first. And then we'll go have a look at Azid and kind of hopefully speak more specifically about recovering from an injury.
Yeah.
This is Tizzy, and she's 22. Yeah, you can see like
Yeah.
jaw.
She looks so well for her age. Good girl. And she's very clean as well.
I cleaned it for you.
Okay, do you want to go and have a walk around the bridge? If you don't want to try and stop the first time, so let her have a look. It makes a bit of a noise, so if she wants to walk over it, she might just go over it and be like, I've got this. Oh, such a good girl. Good girl. Very good. Do we want to have a guess?
I think she's 440-ish.
425.
Oh, I had you fatter than I thought. Normally at this stage in the season she'd be quite muscled and fit, but with COVID and with my breaking bones all the time, she's a bit fatter than normal.
So 432, so she's quite close between bridge and tape. We found that the bigger horses, so ones that can weigh 650 on the bridge, will only be 550 on the tape. But yeah, we always say sort of a Welsh sectionary or a polo pony, they'll be similar to tape. Yeah, so she's very good. So what we'll do now is we do some condition scoring. So we use our hands and our eyes to find where she's storing the fat or muscle or whatever. So we'll have a good feeling for any lumpy bumpy fat pockets. So typically she will store behind the shoulder there a
you
little
can see
bit.
a nice little wobbly bit.
Yeah, she's got a fat pocket there, and then we go across the ribs here. I don't know if you can feel here. She literally stores a little bit there. Can you see if you drop off and then here? That's exactly where she's depositing her fat there. So she's got a little bit over the ribs. I'm not having to dig too much, but we are carrying enough weight. And then again, she's a little bit spongy around the tail head as well.
And is it like humans? Is there a bad place to carry weights?
They're all different. So typically a lot of them will go behind the shoulder first. Some will sit it further back, and it's great to use your hands because I can stand back and think, oh, this doesn't look that fat or it looks too fat. And when then you get your hands on them, it's a complete different picture. Some will be widely sprung in the rib cage, so they'll look bigger, but actually when you feel them, there's rib there straight away. So the best tip I can give is just keep feeling over here, keep feeling for ribs. Obviously we know she drops weight in the winter time, so going into the winter carrying that bit more is not going to hurt her. When you look at her, draw an invisible line across here. Anything down is a distended stomach. So that actually isn't fat. I do a lot of talks for pony club and stuff, and people always say this is the fat. She has a distended stomach because she's older horse now, so age, semi-retired or not doing so much, so she'll put there, so lack of fitness. So you'll see like an eventer that is out of work will get a bigger stomach, and then when they get fitter and trim up, it comes
more
up.
greyhoundy.
Yeah, the things that can affect a distended stomach, like I say, is age, breeding foals, like dressage horses that will go slower and stuff. So yeah, if you can go a bit quicker and you can work the tummy off easily, but that isn't fat there, and it's really hard because an older horse will drop the top line and go south, so it makes them look. Muscle wise, I think she's got a great top line, even though she's not doing masses. Bless her, especially for her age. It gets older, as a horse gets older, they don't utilise their protein as easy. So it's really key that when we're putting her together a balanced diet for her, that we're making sure that she's getting her optimum nutrition, she's getting enough protein to keep this beautiful picture that she's got. You don't want to abandon the feeding, so in a couple of years that she really starts to struggle. So it's keeping what you've built up and maintaining it now. Condition score wise, I would just say she's just a 6.
Yay, I got it right.
So we condition score from 1 to 9, 5 being ideal. She's just carrying that little bit more, so we'll give her a 6. But
you and me both, Tiz.
It's nothing too bad, Tiz, is it? And you've been such a good girl up on there. You're quite happy.
Because we're basically turning her normal feed into a mash, so that it's easier for her to eat, and she's getting kind of not having to chew as much because of her teeth and things. Is that something that is good to do? Yes, perfect. So again, because she's had no clinical issues, so we don't need to avoid starch, and she's not like she's too stressy, so we're quite happy to use a cereal based diet for her to keep her weight on. The number 4 top line cubes would be absolutely perfect. They are a cube, but put a little bit of water on, and it's
they go
a
to
lovely
mash.
sloppy mash that she gets all over her nose and all over me. Come on then.
Good girl.
We know he's pretty fat at the moment.
Okay.
He's a good doer. Over winter, he was quite skinny. And we switched to, we did the endurance mix and the conditioning cubes on him, and extra outshine as well. To get the weight back on him, and we probably overdid it a bit, didn't we?
Okay.
Such a pretty laid back.
Very good. Do you want to guess?
So I think he's close to 500. He's a fatty.
Okay. He's 485.
Oh, I think I was 10 kilos off. Stand. I'm really impressed he went on the weighbridge, like without too much fuss.
470. So he's actually lighter on the tape. Good boy. Yeah, he definitely carries it not so much behind, but a little bit more over there. Yeah, I mean like a bit more of a ledge. And yeah, he definitely gives me a bit more around his tail head as well.
Yeah.
Again, he's got the distended belly because he's not done a lot, but as soon as you start doing your fitness
his
and work,
core work,
it will
still
come
work
up.
on.
Yeah, but he's still really great for his, still really strong for his top line, which is really, really nice. It's really strong here. So yeah, brilliant. It's got a nice picture again. Condition wise, I Again, I'd probably go for a 5+. He's not
Oh, I
massively
said 7.
Did you? You go more. See, this is what I mean. So he's not carrying as much as what
But
she is.
Like looks just fat. Doesn't
he does, because your eye is drawn to the tummy. Or actually, this is why it's great to use your hands, because when you get your hands on them, you don't have to dig. She is carrying so much more, not so much more, but more than what he is. So yeah, that's why it's so important to condition score.
What would you say, kind of in his early kind of competitions and stuff, is the best way to use Acrid with him?
We would recommend that you preload the system, and again afterwards. I work with quite a few people that will electrolyte on a Tuesday and a Friday, and you say what happens on those days, but they've always done it on those days. It's more around the harder work, the hotter days, and the workload. So if you're going out for a long ride, you can feed it beforehand, and same again afterwards to replenish the system. If you've got a fussy horse that doesn't like it, we have a famous sloppy chop in Bailey's terms. So we would recommend that you just put a double handful of a chaff or some speedy beet, fibre beet, or our fibre plus nuggets are fantastic. So you make that kind of soup, so they can chew and sup it all up. We don't normally recommend that you feed the electrolytes too much in the feeds. Use it as your additional drink around your workload. It's a little bit like us having our Lucozade.
We kind of call it pony squash.
Yeah, it is. It's like your nice drink after your long ride. A lot of people will underestimate and overlook the use of electrolytes, and I get a lot of phone calls, especially this time of year, to say that especially if their ponies are doing quite a lot through the summer months with being off school, pony club, or competing, that they've lacking in energy, and half the time it isn't an energy, it's the fact that they're obviously needing the electrolytes to replenish and to support the workload they're in. So although people want to reach for a high energy feed, actually sometimes an electrolyte just to make sure the hydration is there.
Well, you've been very good, and you're not as fat as I thought you were. Is that bad? Does that mean? Should we take you off, put you back? Obviously with endurance horses and any kind of equestrian discipline, hydration is key. I'm really lucky that my horses love Acrid and we drink it straight out the bucket, but we thought we'd give you the Bailey's sloppy chaff recipe.
Yeah.
So what do we do?
So like you say, some of them are great, so we'll probably demonstrate first. So as is a powder form, like most of the electrolytes on the market.
See how well used mine is, because it's so sun bleached.
So it's really, really sweet. It's like a sherbet dip. If you could smell it, it's like it's really nice.
It's quite
so
apple-y.
we add a couple of scoops to say a normal bucket of water, and give it a stir up. And then I'm sure my little helper here will demonstrate just how palatable it is. We'll go through here.
Oh yes.
So as you can see, it's really good. We'll drop that down there. What we do is we make the same recipe up. Literally, it's like cooking. So we go with 2 more scoops in half a bucket of water here. Again, the rate would change. There's a proper info on the back about how much you feed for sweating. So give it a stir, make it dissolve, and then you can make a sloppy chop out of using, we've got some of our light chaff in here. So this is just a really nice green oat straw chaff. It's not molasses, or it's not got any sugar on, or anything like speedy beet or our fibre plus nuggets, anything that will go in to make it. So we'll add a couple of handfuls that we've got in there, and then give it again a bit of a stir, a bit of a messy job.
I think someone's excited for this.
So this is our famous sloppy chop. We have Caroline to thank for this, and it's been very well received up and down the country, and it's a great way to get them.
Somebody wants it already.
Can you smell this? It's the pop of the tub. Yeah. So see, they just like, oh, it's like a bit different. So it just encourages them just to drink and chew.
And I thought he was going to like chew the stuff off the top, but he's actually drinking through it rather.
He'll drink through, but then they'll have a good chew. So it's just, rather than it just being water, it mimics the feed. So yeah, we have a great success rate with our sloppy chop, which is fantastic.
The noises he's making.
Yeah. Good lad. Do we want to guess?
So I guessed him at 4:30.
I'd go 460. Or I'll go, I'm going 420. No, that's too low. 440.
It's only 4:15.
Oh, skinny mini. So
he's a lean bean.
He is.
So Azid Azid is obviously, as you can see, Azid has recently injured himself.
Yeah.
It's a soft tissue injury. The bandage is not as bad as the bandage would suggest, but it's quite a serious injury. He went into it pretty fit, so it's been quite good for him.
Yeah.
Is there anything kind of nutritionally you would say for a horse on box resting that's injured to help them recover?
Again, so with the make sure they're having enough vitamins and minerals. So when a horse is healing, it's the vitamins and the protein. So when a horse goes on box rest, it's the protein that you need for the soft tissue to heal. So try not to come away too much from the optimum diet of vitamins and quality protein. So we'll pop the tape around him. So he's 420, so he's nearly the same from bridge to tape. So it just shows.
Yeah, and he's got quite long legs. He's a very different shape to Qantas and Tizzy.
But again, that will change a little bit as like he gets more muscled or.
I scored his condition score at a 5.
I would agree with you. I think he's perfect. I think he's a really good weight at the moment. So yeah, he's always going to have a little bit behind the shoulder, but he is absolutely perfect over the ribs. So he's had a history of gastric ulcers, so we need to make sure that while he is on the box rest, we don't want him to not be eating enough, so then you're susceptible to another bout of those, so we need to make sure there's enough fibre going through. Yeah. And when they're in a stressy situation, sometimes they won't be eating enough, so it's great that you have been putting the fibre plus nuggets, the different types of fibres. You can offer buckets of chaff and speedy wheat just to keep them interested, because it's pretty boring when they're on the box rest or they're just confined to a really small paddock and they can't pick and graze at different types of grasses. So just making sure he's having his 2% of fibre per day as a bare minimum, so 2% of his body weight he's needing forage, so we can just make sure
that he's good to know his weight now he's on box rested.
So we can calculate that in hay, and then if he's eating that amount of hay, fantastic. If he's not, then there's time to be putting some like a fibre replacer in. But no, he's looking really well. His the condition score, like I say, a 5. And just make sure he's on the greatest diet we can to make sure he heals properly.
I feel like I'm about to be corrected, which is fine because it's all about learning and getting better. Whatever makes the boat go faster, as British rowing say. So whatever makes the horse go faster, we're better. So what I've been doing, because I'm an endurance rider, I want my horses to have different feeds in the vet gate. Yeah. And I thought that I would have to feed them all the time whatever I want in the vet gate, so it's not something new that they're having.
Yeah. Yeah, so they're used to it, so you're not just putting something different in.
So rather than switch to a balancer, what I did was I just cut down the feed that they were having because they're not doing very much, and I added in a powder balancer.
Yeah, which is fine.
Supplement. So how would you go about doing it? How would you go through this?
Okay, so do you want to talk me through like one of the horses we've looked at so far and what they're being fed then?
So literally Qantas, you're going to think I'm really mean. So this is a tiny little bucket.
Okay.
He literally gets 1 cup of that.
Okay.
Half a cup of the Ease and Excel and half a cup of the conditioning cubes.
A bit of everything. Okay.
And then I just put the balancer in so he gets all the nutritional bits and bobs he needs.
Okay, so that small amount for the horse that we've seen obviously isn't providing you with a balanced diet. So we can look at our brochure, which is accessible for everyone. So if we were just looking at one of the feeds, so we've already recorded his weight, and we know if he was in light work, he'd need 2.2 kilos.
Okay, let's make up what you'd actually give him.
Okay, so if we did, because obviously mixes and cubes weigh slightly different, but if he tends to enjoy the endurance mix
that's
the
his
best.
main feed.
So a round stub cube, this is the English that we use, one of these. So one of those of the endurance mix weighs around about 1.25. So if we did 2.2 kilos divided by 1.25, that would let us know that he needs about 1 3/4 of a stub cube per day to reach a balanced diet, which is that. Okay, so we see the difference in the size feed. So that's what he should have, and then that. However, if we gave Qantas that, I think he would get too fat because we've already condition scored him carrying his weight. So like what you've done, Beth, naturally you've took that away and we've ended up with this smaller portion here. Where then is best to do, like you're doing, is you're topping up with a powdered vitamin and mineral. At Bailey's, we don't make a powdered one, we make a pelleted balancer.
Yeah.
And where these differ is a pelleted balancer has your vitamins and minerals in, but also your quality protein. So because they're endurance and obviously working, the protein is what's going to keep the top line and the muscle tone. So there is nothing wrong with a powdered balancer at all, but for your type of horses, the protein would be beneficial.
Yeah.
So what we do is, if you were to feed that small amount, we'd probably add like 2 cups of balancer in on top.
So would you still say keep in the condition cues when he's in Excel so he's used to them for the vet gates and things?
Yeah, you could possibly, because you're not feeling a massive like change
Yeah.
or anything like it. It's not like you're doing massive amounts. When you're in the vet gates, do those amounts, how much would you be
So
feeding?
literally, they're given a big box full, and they eat whatever they want out of those boxes, and it usually changes through the distance. So they'll start off really liking the endurance mix, and towards the end, I think they want something more simple, and they go for the cubes, and so it's mixed up.
It's a buffet almost.
Yeah, literally just whatever they like,
Yeah.
and as much as they want.
Yeah.
So we've finished up at a yard visit. Thank you so much for coming.
Pleasure.
Everyone. Not only my horses, but all the horses at the livery have been seen today. So what do they get now they've been seen?
So each of the liveries, because I saw their owners individually, we weighed them, weight-taped them and condition scored them like we did with yours, and they've all gone off with their own brochure with all our products in and their own diet plan in for each individual horse that we've seen. They'll each have a voucher so they can go off and spend at their local feed store as well to go and get the products that we've recommended. For you, Beth, because we're going to go in a little bit more detail and we have the 3 horses and we have the different levels of fitness, what we're going to do is I will send you an email and it'll have like what to feed them on in light work depending on their condition at the time, and also you've got a plan for their endurance so you can build up and work towards. So yeah, we'll go in a lot more detail. I can send you that in an email.
So it's been really good. I have learned loads, and I've had horses since I was 2. So we've gone through kind of each horse individually, and I'll go through in a minute kind of the top tips that I've learnt from today. Thank you so much for coming. It's been really good. And I'm going to use you more now.
Yeah, no, it's great to have a point of
out.
contact, and I'm always on the end of the phone if you want to give me a call, send me a photo and say this is how they're looking, and we can come out and weigh them again soon.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. So just put Azid on the weighbridge, had him conditioned, scored and weighed. He's actually a little bit lighter than I thought he was, but he's come out with like the perfect body condition score, which is really good. And we went through what I'm feeding him, and it's kind of the right stuff, but maybe I need to tweak my quantities a little bit. So it's really good to know that the feed that Bailey's have got, so the Ease and Excel and the Performance Balancer, are going to give him everything he needs for a really good recovery, and there's nothing kind of on top of that I need to get to kind of really get that soft tissue to granulate and give him the best chance possible of getting back to full health. The biggest thing I've learnt is that if they're not in work, and normally I'd be feeding like a scoop of feed, that I can bring that feed down and replace it with a balancer, and I don't have to go like one way or the other. I can mix and match, so that's really good to know. It was really, really good to have someone so knowledgeable come and have a look at what I feed the horses and give me some tips and things, because it's an area that I have zero training in, and yes, you can look online and things, but you never know kind of, especially with social media, what's factually correct and what isn't, and it's quite difficult to trawl through papers and stuff, so I've actually really, really enjoyed it. One of the biggest tips that I've taken from it personally, so instead of doing what I do and feed a powder supplement on top of a tiny bit of feed, is to try the balancer. So they've really, really kindly given me some balancer to try, but to kind of do what I do at the moment by tailoring it to the workload and what they're doing and keeping the feed still in the diet, she said that when they're in work and I'm feeding like a full scoop of their normal feed, cool, but if I'm going to reduce the normal feed, I can then substitute it for the performance balancer, kind of almost one-to-one. So she said there's like a way of working it out properly, and the nutrition team would do that for me. But Azid, he's ready for his food. It's as a kind of ballpark, 1 scoop of their normal feed would be the equivalent of the 1 scoop of performance balancer. So once I get my nutritional plan and stuff through, I'll go through that and kind of work out what I'm doing. But I guess what I'm going to do now is kind of be able to tailor the feed and the amount that they're eating more accurately to each horse now. The other thing that's going to be really good to try is they've given us some of the number 24, the Ease and Excel cubes. So Tizzy can't have like the mixes because the bits get in her teeth. so she can now try the Ease and Excel cubes, which are really low in starch. So we'll have a go with them. Also, it's kind of good to get a nutritionist point of view from how we're feeding for endurance. So we give them like a bit of a buffet of food, and that's why I've been trying to keep like a bit of everything in their diets, so that I can gradually put that in before a race rather than doing it all the time. And also kind of what I feed out on loop, something that's got like some fast release energy and something that's got slow release energy. So a bit like the nutrition for me as well, I want to keep the horses kind of nicely ticking along rather than getting big spikes in energy. Huge thank you to Bailey's, and I'm really looking forward now to actually making the most of their nutritional team and making the most of the advice that they give out, and see what happens in the future.